Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 381-400. Chapter 381 Target, North Blue. That technology. Passo's mindless eyes converged instantly, and a little gleam suddenly appeared. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Twisting his head, Passo had a confused expression on his face. What technology? Crack. Vlad slapped his forehead with a slap, and said with some regret, "Blame me, actually think you and I have such a tacit understanding, blame me, blame me." So, Passo. Vlad said seriously, "What happened to that technology, the technology that I asked you to study before I went to the New World last time? The technology of feeding devil fruits to non-living creatures. This is Vlad's plan B. If you can't directly eat the dark fruit yourself, then let something eat the dark fruit directly, and directly make this fruit into a piece of equipment. This is also possible. Although this ability cannot be obtained directly, no one has ever said that this ability cannot be used indirectly. Since you can't turn the dark fruit into your own active ability, let it be your own equipment. This is Plan B, the same simple and rude plan, but it can be said to be extremely bold. There is no need to say how precious the dark fruit is. It can be said that among all the devil fruits known to Vlad, it belongs to it. The most precious, but such a precious fruit. Vlad actually wanted to feed it to something like this. It can be said to be very generous. Is it all right? Vlad said, "I don't want to Plan C. Plan C is a simpler and cruder plan. Since you can't eat it yourself and can't make equipment, you can just find someone to eat it. This is Plan C of last resort." Oh, that Passo suddenly realized it. That's right, that's it. Vlad nodded in relief. He had high hopes for Passo. It doesn't make sense that what Vegapunk can do, Passo, who is also deeply researched on pedigree factors, can't do it. Well, no. Passo nodded. Although I dissected the dog several times with the help of Luo, I have a little research on such a strange life form, but after all, there is no extra devil fruit for me to study. I want to analyze it. Such technology is really difficult. I only found that such technology. It is indeed the application of the lineage factor. Having said that, Passo's expression was very excited. It's really a very magical thing. Can you imagine it, Captain? Not only humans can eat devil fruits, but animals can also, even inanimate ones. Objects can do it too. It's really amazing. Dr. Vegapunk is truly a genius. Captain, are we going to meet Dr. Vegapunk once? Well, your goal is a little small. Vlad smiled meaningfully. But isn't your current technology good enough? Vlad looks hesitant. Does he really want to implement Plan C? That's right. Vlad suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Passo, if you can find a scientist who is as good as you in the field of lineage factors, do you have the confidence to develop such a technology? Neat. Passo rarely looked unhappy. Captain, I feel insulted. What? Vlad raised an eyebrow. As long as I have enough devil fruits, I can develop such a technology myself. Passo's tone was very calm, but Vlad was not hard to hear. This guy's words were full of strong confidence, and yes, for scientists, questioning their scientific research ability is the biggest insult to themselves. No, misunderstanding, Passo. Vlad smiled. I mean, you might need some subordinates. What do you think? Bioscience Corps, what is the name? Well. Passo's eyes lit up. Don't you think it's too hard to do experiments by yourself? If you have a professional assistant, especially if the assistant's technical level is also excellent, isn't it a good thing for your scientific research progress? Good. Passo nodded. Very well, then it's settled. Vlad smiled. Let's go find your assistant. Ahaha. With such a big laugh, Vlad strode out of Passo's laboratory. Although it was only a flash of inspiration, a new target had appeared, and it was a very useful one. Blue. Quote. Vlad made a call as he walked to the deck. Click. What's the matter, Vlad? The voice of a very familiar man came from the opposite side. The person on the opposite side was naturally not someone else, but Vlad's good partner, a man who had helped Vlad a lot, Emperor Going, Guild Tessero. Woo-ha-ha, Tessero, do me one more favor. Vlad laughed, help me find a group of people. Quote. So I'm already your exclusive intelligence officer. Tessero's voice was as unsmiling as ever. We are friends. Vlad didn't care at all. Who is it? Well, not some hard-to-find guy. Vlad said, do you like reading comic strips? Tessero. What? Tessero was very puzzled, and didn't understand why Vlad suddenly brought up such an irrelevant thing. As for me, I liked to read it when I was a child, and I was obsessed with one of the stories. The story about a certain marine hero who defeated the evil legion and saved the sea really attracted me. Hero Marine is not at all interested, but I am very interested in the evil army in the story. Vlad said so. Oh. As soon as Vlad said this, the matter was already clear. Tessero nodded clearly. Sure enough, it's not a hard-to-find guy. Right. Vlad smiled. If you're going to find them, I can tell you the answer right now. Tessero said casually, they're in North Blue right now, hired by one kingdom to destroy another. So, as expected of a mercenary group. Vlad smiled. Vlad, if you're going to find them, do me a favor too. Vlad's little friend asked so. No problem. Vlad agreed. I haven't even said anything yet. Tessero was a little surprised. No problem, because. Vlad smiled, we're buddies. You bastard, you are really good at talking. Tessero smiled. Chapter 382 Germa 66. There is such a legend in the world. A long time ago, a comic strip was serialized on the World Economic News, telling a story of a hero defeating evil. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Marine hero who can walk on the sea, Sora, and his companions against the evil army that has driven him into a corner several times. Although Vlad is not interested in the marine hero, he is not interested in the idea of being able to save the world, but he is interested in the story itself. After all, the level of this comic strip is pretty good. The plot is full of ups and downs, and the characters are full and vivid. Even Vlad's critical eye from another world seems to think that this is a masterpiece above the standard. Vlad is very pleased. By the way, if it does not happen. As far as his father's business is concerned, Vlad originally wanted to be a copywriter in the spare time of his current practice to develop the level of entertainment in this world. He had a very wicked idea at the time. What would happen if the comic op was drawn in this world? It's sure to be interesting, but, unfortunately, things are changing, and Vlad's idea ran aground before it could be implemented. Turning back to the topic, although this comic strip is widely known and the story grew up with many people's childhoods, few people know that the evil army in the story is not fictional, and even the story itself, to a large extent, is not fictitious. Vlad did not know who the prototype of marine hero Thorin was, but he knew exactly who the prototype of the evil legion was, and that was his goal of going to North Blue this time. In this very famous country in the world, that is a kingdom and a legion, the former North Blue overlord, the evil legion who used force to make the North Blue tremble under their hands, and later ended their presence in the North Blue under the intervention of the government. However, this legion can still act as a mercenary all over the world, and even participate in the World Conference as a member state. The name of the kingdom is the Kingdom of Germa, and the name of the legion is Germa 66. It may be an independent country with the strongest technological strength in the world, at least, in terms of biotechnology. And they are Vlad's target this time. After all, their biotechnology is really tempting, to the point that even Vlad, a member of the world government, will not be too scrupulous. In fact, North Blue is not far from the New World, but is separated by a windless belt that ordinary people cannot cross. It is really easy for the Fire Dragon pirates who own the flying pirate ship. Things that can take a leap. Got Germa's position from Tessero. The Platinum D-Drag had flown over North Blue. Speaking of which, the fire dragon pirates of this sea area had only been here not long ago. I came here and harvested the biologist Paso, the ship Dr. Luo and the helmsman and navigator Shibibo, which can be said to be the hometown of the fire dragon pirates. How is it, chef? On the bow of the platinum D-drag, Vlad asked with his arms around his chest. How do you feel? How do you feel? The chef murmured against the wind on the pavement. Yes. Vlad smiled and looked at the horizon in the distance, although I don't know what happened between the two of you, but Chef. Vlad turned his head and said with interest, there is still a story between you and Germa. The chef said lightly, Germa once accepted a commission from a certain country to destroy my motherland. That's it. Vlad didn't look too surprised, it's really not a small hatred. Well. The chef said softly and said naturally, I am the prince of that country. Prince. Vlad was very surprised. Ha ha ha, it's amazing, it's amazing. There is actually a prince on my ship. It's okay. The chef smiled, unmoved by his captain's quirkiness. Well, do the math. Vlad said, strictly speaking, I am a prince. Well. The chef looked a little surprised. Didn't you say it? Vlad said, although I don't want to admit it, my biological mother is indeed the queen of a country. Queen. The chef was surprised. Well, yes. Vlad smiled, have you heard of the nations? All nations. The surprised look on the chef's face instantly shrouded. Captain, are you talking about that Charlotte Linlin? That big mom, one of the 4 emperors. That's right, what's up? You're startled. Vlad looked very proud and smiled hilariously. Yeah, it really scared me. The chef smiled back. Crackling. Yeah haha, it scared me too. Lightning flashed, and a man named Enel had appeared beside the two of them. Does our captain still have such a life experience? Don't get excited, that crazy woman won't be our help, quite the opposite. Vlad said, she and her kingdom are my #1 imaginary enemy. Among the 4 emperors, they are the ones I want to defeat the most. As you wish. Enel smiled, you are the captain, you have the final say, we just follow you. That's right. The chef nodded in agreement. Ah. Vlad laughed loudly, well, but the work on the Big Mom pirate group will take a while, our target is Germa now. Well, it's already under here, right? Vlad said so. Well, that's right. Enel tapped his ear, I can hear it already, there are cries of fear and hatred from those guys down there, scolding the evil legion that destroyed their country. Really, that's all right. Vlad smiled, hey, God, go and call the doctor as well, he'll need to do his best next time. Okay. Crack. Lightning flashed by. Enel's figure has disappeared on the deck once again. Guro no mi, rumble fruit, is really convenient. Germa, hey. Vlad smiled, what an amazing group of guys. So, how, chef? Vlad asked, do you want to defeat them directly? If you want, you can take their research materials and directly sink them into the bottom of the sea. Quote. The chef was a little hesitant. Chapter 383 Into the Battlefield. Honestly. There was a wry smile on the chef's face, hesitating, Captain, I don't know what to do. If I say resentment, of course there is. I wish I could sink them all to the bottom of the sea, but he hesitated, why? Because the man named Vinsmoke Sanji is his best friend, the woman named Vinsmoke Raiji is his savior, and Germa is his enemy. Yes, but these two are the people he doesn't want to hurt. It was such a trick at the time, obviously they were enemies, but Dino and Sanji were the best friends. She was the one who caught herself in the cage, but she saved her life. X23 US. Com updates fastest. The man named Croft Dino had never been so lost. Well, forget it, no matter how much you say now, it's all false. Vlad smiled and patted the chef on the shoulder, let's wait until Germa is honest. No matter how much you say now, it's all false. When it's not time to really deal with this matter, no one will know how to choose in the future. This is also a matter of course. What would you think? Ohm. With a low sound, a translucent sphere instantly enveloped the broad deck of the Platinum D-Drag. Hey! 2 figures instantly appeared on the deck. Well, it's so convenient. Vlad is very envious of Luo and Enel's abilities. These 2 guys have high fashion values, especially in terms of movement. Although Vlad is very fast, he can only flap his wings very hard. Flying, while Enel can turn into lightning and move at the speed of light, Luo can move instantaneously. No matter how you look at it, Vlad has already lost in terms of force. So, Captain. Luo took back the room, topless, with a long knife on his shoulders, his body covered in sweat. This man kept practicing his own practice, and was easily crushed by that flamingo before, killing his 2 partners. The incident has made this man no longer have the slightest slack, he just wants to become stronger. What do you tell me to do? Well, do me a favor. Vlad smiled, some guys down there are really tough. What? Luo frowned, Captain, the guy you find troublesome, No, don't get me wrong, it's not a problem with strength. Vlad said, it's really troublesome not to kill them. Right. Chef. Neat. Of course the chef knew who Vlad was talking about. Okay, enough for the 4 of us. Vlad smiled, come on. Go down and have a good time with these playboys. However, the fact is that among these 4 people, apart from Luo, I am afraid that any one of them can easily settle the following war. That's right. A flash of light flashed in Vlad's head. God, I suddenly have a great idea. Well. Enel was a little surprised. Hey, what a great idea. Vlad smiled. Dash 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 dash. Speaking of which, the world government is indeed the largest force in the world. It is made up of more than 170 member states in the world, including the Great Root of the 4 Seas. What the government can use is to do things like it is unimaginable for many people. For example, CP0 under the government has a member whose name is Stussy, the Queen of Happy Street, a famous underworld tycoon in the New World, and a friend of Charlotte Linlin, who can often eat at the same table with Charlotte Linlin. Women, that is to say, as long as the government is willing, after all, and is not invulnerable. However, there are some things that even the government is not easy to intervene in. For example, civil wars between member states. In the case of such things that cannot be mediated, even the government can only watch them play dumb. This was the case with the Croft Kingdom at the time, and it is the same with this country now. This is just a tip of the battlefield. Can the guys who appear in front of you really be called people? With the exact same appearance and numb expression, even if his body is cut in 2, he still has to fight to his death without fear of death. Is this guy really still human? However, these guys are the enemy. The enemy who invaded the country. Boom. The shell exploded just a few meters away from the body. At this moment, it was as if the body was frozen, the ears could not hear anything, and all that could be seen was the dust rising into the sky. Suddenly a dark shadow flashed in front of me. What is it? What is it? It's a very familiar thing. It's obviously just a fleeting thing, but now I can see it very clearly. Ah, I remembered, it was Jack's hand. It turned out to be Jack's arm, with the ring on it. I heard that he was drafted into the army on the day of his wedding. Of course, I still remember the man talking about his wife. That happy smile at the time, I was really envious. I walked into the hall of marriage with my childhood sweetheart. That guy Jack is really enviable. Then, there was a sudden warmth on the face, accompanied by the smell of rust. What is this? Oh, yes, it's blood, so it's the blood of my compatriots who were blown away by the shells. There is something gathering in the chest, and something gurgling in the eyes. Germa. Shouted out, finally shouted out, with indescribable emotions. Such a roar is not outstanding in this battlefield, because more than one person is suffering, more than one person is sad, more than one person is angry, because I know that this country feels the same way. The musket had long since been thrown there, and the thing without gunpowder and ammunition was no better than firewood, and the only thing he could rely on was a sword in his hand. Therefore, even if there is only such a sword, I want to make the enemy pay the price. Ah, ah, give me death. With such a roar, the long sword in his hand stabbed towards the enemy without hesitation, without being blocked at all. A hole was opened, but the enemy was still able to turn his head. Looking at him blankly, he really turned his head, 180 degrees. PFF'd. What does it feel like? Pain? No, in fact, I didn't feel anything, I just felt that I was flying farther and farther. Is that fear? Not really. The moment you set foot on the battlefield, you had already expected such a situation. In fact, you should be unwilling, right? Nothing has been done for this country, should it be such unwillingness. It must be the unwillingness of not protecting what he wants to protect, right? Oh, yes, just unwilling to die. How can you be willing to die like this? I'm really unhappy. Not only from Hyung's strength, but the long sword in his hand was suddenly pulled out, and he slashed heavily towards the expressionless enemy. PFF'd. Warm blood covered his face again, this time no sadness, this time, at least. Did you do something for this country? At the same time, something fell from the sky, and this war may be about to turn. Boom. Chapter 384 Giants. Charge. Boom. An astonishing black shadow fell from the sky and fell heavily on the battlefield, just like an asteroid impact. The terrifying force directly overturned the surrounding ground, and an astonishing crater was created in an instant, carried by the violent wind. A more amazing shock wave mixed with gravel dust directly turned the battlefield upside down. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Wow. Ah. What east? Ah. In the face of a scene like a natural disaster, all resistance is powerless, whether it is the artificial army of Germa Kingdom, or the resistance army of this invaded kingdom. In the face of this level of strength there are only points to escape. The violent wind swept the entire battlefield in an instant. The guy who was a little closer would end up being blown into the sky by the storm. The worst thing was that he was directly smashed into a sieve by the gravel mixed in the wind, and then directly shocked by the violent shock wave. Got a smash. What? At the back of the battlefield, near the coast, the giant snails are leisurely looking around on the coast. Their task has always been to transport troops to the target country, and then they can wait for the news of victory. The army of the Kingdom of Germa will meet. Sweep down all enemies. What? On the hillside not far from the snail, the man wearing a black combat uniform, with a mustache and loose blonde hair, looked like a lion in surprise. What's the matter? Could it be the other party's hidden weapon? The man's name is Judge, Vinsmoke Judge, the king of Germa Kingdom, the supreme commander of the evil army Germa 66, the patriarch of the Vinsmoke family. He escaped when he was incorporated by the government, and used this technology to create Germa 66's clone army and several of his children. No way. The person talking is a woman, a beautiful woman, a very beautiful kind, with pink hair, a pink battle suit, and a cloak like the wings of a poisonous moth behind her. The most striking thing is her long legs. The very long kind. Since there is such a weapon, why didn't it come out before? Besides, a lot of their own people were injured, right? The woman's name is Leju, the eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family, nicknamed Poison Purple. Hey, whether it's the weapons of those idiots or not, they will be defeated by us anyway. The man who spoke had fiery red hair and a fiery red battle suit. His name was IG, the eldest son of the Vinsmoke family, nicknamed Sparks Red. Call. The wind whistled, the smoke was blown away by the strong wind, and the things hidden in the smoke also revealed his original appearance. That is. The man with the color of forgiveness. Vinsmoke Yuji's eyes widened in surprise. Is there still such a weapon hidden? Che, I thought it was an easy job. The blue-haired man gritted his teeth and clicked on the blue. Niji's tone didn't mean anything to be afraid of. As the dust and smoke dissipated, what was displayed in front of them was something extremely amazing. Dash 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 dash. Hey, that is, what is that? Giant. In fact, it wasn't just the Vinsmoke family who were surprised. Opposite them, they were equally astonished by their bloody battle or the Wong who was about to be leveled. It's not that they are too fuss, but that there is something too amazing in front of them. It is a giant, let's just become a giant, with a yellow appearance, a giant with a height of close to 100 meters. That's right, only such a huge thing falling from the sky will bring about the consequences like just now. The shape is not very similar to human beings. The lower body is not human-like with 2 limbs, but has 4 legs, which are very thick and tall. This way, it is far more stable than 2 legs. The upper body is very similar to humans, but the arms are completely different. The back is densely covered with arms. Roughly, it is estimated that there are hundreds of them. It looks very deformed and even scary. Wow, haha, that's awesome. Almost no one saw the giant's chest. There was a small room with 3 people sitting in it. Vlad laughed so much, "Chef, you are still hiding such an interesting trick." Vlad was really surprised. When the 4 of them fell from the sky, they were in the air. The chef suddenly said that he had a new trick that he wanted to try, and then he squeezed such a butter giant out of thin air. In order to continue to follow in the captain's footsteps, I have to get stronger. There is no chef among the 3, but his voice can be clearly conveyed. Ahaha, then there's nothing to say. Vlad smiled like this, "Cook, then run me over it." Understood. Chef replied softly, "Let me crush, although there are people who stand in your way and stand in front of us." Boom. Just moving the footsteps slightly will bring the same consequences. Just one step is a careful earthquake. The height of the butter giant cast by the chef is far higher than the devil Oz in the hands of Moria. Move. Get away from him. With a body like that, just rubbing it on is a dead end. This, what the hell is this? The giant moved its footsteps gently, but just like this, a small earthquake had been generated around it. After all, such a body was placed here. Germa. Chef thought to himself, the long-standing grievances will come to an end today. Giant, charge forward. Boom. The earth shattered violently, and the giant ran. The Germa Legion standing in front of it only had time to notice that the sky suddenly darkened, and then lost consciousness. The giant showed a terrifying power that did not match his huge body at all, just like a bear running in the snow. The boulders and fragments that were raised instantly rose into the sky, and fell heavily behind him like a meteor shower. Wong, who had already started watching the play, suffered heavy casualties in an instant. Dong 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 dong. The gigantic giant stepped forward. Nothing can stop him. Replicants. A foot down will only be a thin pool of red, a small mountain boulder. A kick on it will only turn into a meteor and fly into the sky. Firearms. Artillery. What's the use of that? Could the lifeless giant be injured by a firearm whose skin is hard to penetrate? Artillery. Could barely peeling off a layer of skin have any effect on the giant? Unstoppable, unmatched. Like a god. I don't know how many replica soldiers have been smashed under their feet, and they have stepped on a bloody road, and the unparalleled giant has rushed in front of several people from the Vinsmoke family. Then, without the slightest hesitation, the soles of the feet were already crushed. Chapter 386 Dark Clouds Weigh the City. Boom 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 boom. The ground was shaking violently, and the soldiers of the kingdom on the other side of the battlefield were almost untenable. The power displayed by that terrifying giant was absolutely unmatched by ordinary people. The continuous vibrations have already indicated what kind of terrifying scene is happening on that side. Even across the entire battlefield, such amazing vibrations can be conveyed, and the soldiers of the kingdom who have not seen much of the world are already stunned. Is it for Germa? At the back of the battlefield, the man with scars on his body breathed a sigh of relief. He opened his mouth and said that he was already desperate when the giant fell from the sky. After all, such a shocking appearance suddenly appeared. No one would be able to take it lightly. The Supreme Commander, so of course he knew that the kingdom did not have such a weapon, so naturally he thought that this giant was Germa's secret weapon, although he didn't know why he already had the upper hand, and he had to use it like this. A weapon that inflicted huge losses on soldiers on both sides. Although they can't figure it out, it doesn't prevent these kingdom soldiers from feeling hopeless. Even with Germa's technical level, a giant made by a chef can't do anything, not to mention that there is no black technology at all, and it still stays in the very simple gunpowder and sword. The backward kingdom of the era. However, the despair did not last long. In just an instant, the giant turned his body and charged towards the rear of Germa, bringing smoke and dust all the way to cover the sky, and the sky collapsed. At this time, even a fool knows that this giant is coming for Germa. Although I don't know who it is, the enemy of the enemy is a friend. There is no doubt about this kind of thing. Since it has already started at Germa, then whether the other party is willing or not, at least at this moment, they are allies. Charge! Charge! Pulling out the long sword, which was already full of gaps and stained with blood, the man shouted, "Charge! Kill all the bastards who invade our home." Oh! The tide of battle began to turn. Dash 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 dash. Hey! The huge fist made of butter has melted a little, and this is the result of the continuous punching at super high speed. The smoke enveloped everything around him, but even Vlad could easily feel the situation on the ground below. He had already said that his observation hockey was very personal, although he was not good at breath or even ideas. However, Vlad's observation hockey greatly strengthens the perception of the shape of the objects in the space. Just like scanning, you can easily feel the changes on the ground below. Yeah, haha, you're so kind. Chef. After digging out his ears, Enel on the side said, "Well, should I say Lianxiangxiu?" Well, now that the decision has been made. Vlad stood up and stretched, and Vlad said, "Just go down." Okay. Miss Smoke Raikou. It's amazing that after the chef's indiscriminate attack, the Vinsmoke family was not completely wiped out, and even the woman named Vinsmoke Leju didn't even get hurt at all, or said that she had never been attacked at all. Just like standing out from the crowd, the place where she stood was extremely conspicuous against the surrounding depression, like a tower in the basin. At this moment, the woman had a very shocked expression on her face. It was. The woman said, "What about Vlad the Fire Dragon?" "That's right, it's me." Vlad smiled like this, and then his eyes drifted to the other side. "Well, apart from you, the others are okay. It's really easy to strike. Chef, with such a big momentum, I thought everyone other than this beauty would be hammered to ashes by you." Because. Chef said, "It's about the captain's plan, and. Well, it's up to you, as I said." Vlad didn't look back. These guys are at your disposal. I think that's a good way to handle it. The chef opened his mouth. "Bastard, what did you just do?" "Power generation, lightsaber." Such a loud shout, the man named Vinsmoke. Niji jumped up from the huge and wide gap, holding a lightsaber with strong lightning flashes in his hand, and thunder and lightning wrapped around his body. Like a flash across the sky, it rushed towards Vlad. Vlad didn't move, and watched Niji pounce on him. He could clearly see Niji's twisted body. Even though the chef kept his hand, his body was still flattened by the hammer. It's like a pie, but even such a pie can still move freely. I have to say that Judge's skills are still amazing. Bah! The lightsaber flashing with intense lightning had almost pierced Vlad's face, and Vlad could already feel the jumping electric light, but he remained motionless because. Yeah, haha. Scoff. Lightning flashed. The man with the upper body naked had already blocked Vlad, and his big hand held Niji's thunderbolt sword directly. What? Niji was horrified. He never thought his lightning attack would be caught so easily. Is this also called lightning? Enel laughed. Look at it. Stupid. What a real thunderbolt looks like. Discharge. Crackling. Ah! Crack! Enel threw the charred Niji, who had been electrocuted, to the side, and stepped aside. Vlad's body once again appeared in Ig, who had already climbed up, Yuji, who was already lying on the ground and couldn't get up, but still the body of Judge who was able to raise his head and look up. Guys of Germa. Vlad said, you're under siege. Crash. Just as Vlad said this, the replica soldiers of the Germa family had already begun to surround this side. These soldiers who had been brainwashed by the Germa family since their birth had always put the life of the Vinsmoke family first. Hey, there are so many people. Are you hitting me in the face as soon as you speak? Vlad looked around, then, with a smile, however, luckily we have a lot of people. God, it's getting dark. What? Ig raised his head suddenly, and then his eyes widened in disbelief. Ah ha ha ha. Learn to be respectful to me too. Idiots. Look up, then marvel at me. Vlad raised a hand and pointed to the sky. This is. The dragon army is here. At this moment, the dark clouds overwhelm the city. Chapter 387 Dragon Army. Above the sky, it was no longer as clear as before, and the black figure unknowingly enshrouded the entire sky. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Ah ha ha ha. Vlad was very proud. This is the army of dragons. It can be easily seen that the figures above are not human, and have nothing to do with human beings at all. Anyone with eyes can see such a thing. Compared to the human body, it is very petite, with a metallic appearance, red light flashing in the position of the eyes, and a long gun in his hand. Robot. Reiku looked surprised. Of course it's a robot. It's naturally nothing else that floats above the sky and falls down full of breath. Of course, it's the robot army that Vlad has been planning for a long time. The official name is the Dragon Army. This is the very interesting idea that Vlad and Enel said before. After finally encountering such a war scene, it would be too embarrassing to not pull out your own legion and show it off. Da 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 da. Quote. Vlad's Iron Legion slowly landed on the ground. They could not fly. Although they received the help of the maiden installed a jet system on their bodies, they could only achieve a short stay in the air and could not fly. But this is actually enough, and it is completely enough to be able to airborne from the sky. Hey hey hey. Vlad smiled, how is it? I have a lot of people, right? Your Excellency Captain. Beside Vlad, a robot with a sword in his hand and a musket behind him reported to Vlad very seriously, all 1,532 members of the Dragon Army have arrived. Chi. Okay, Colonel Black. Vlad smiled. Of course, this talking robot is nothing else, but the robot that led him to Dr. Eugene's house before. Eugene named him Black, and now he is the army of Vlad's dragon. The commander-in-chief, this kind of work is still very suitable for him. When the Dragon Army was first brought down from the moon, there were only close to 1,000 robots, but now, during the period of time when he came here from the New World, Enel, an amateur scientist with 9 knives, has made machines capable of making machines. The core production line has already produced a lot of machine cores, and only more than 500 robots have been added. It is because the internal capacity of the Platinum Drager is leisurely, and the robot shells it carries are only more than 500. It's all out now. Then, Colonel, don't hesitate. Vlad smiled, and pointed at the surrounding Germa family soldiers, destroy them. Not a single one. Yes, Your Excellency Captain. Blake nodded in response, waved the long sword in his hand, and said loudly, charge. Chi. The gas suddenly spurted out from behind, and a full 1,532 robots had been scattered and rushed towards the Germa legion that was surrounding them. Choosing. In the air, Black ordered. Sweep. It may be difficult for humans to prohibit orders, but it is really a very simple matter for robots. Without the slightest hesitation, nor the slightest resistance, these robots suddenly raised their hands and twisted suddenly. Body, the long spear in his hand had already whistled and flew out. Chi. Although there are only 1,500 robots, the spears thrown out are as dense as rain. PFF'd. A long spear fell from the sky and shot directly through a soldier of the Germa family. This scene was staged in all places. No soldier of the Germa family could resist such an attack. It was just a touch, and the soldiers of the surrounding Germa family where a piece had already fallen, and blood began to flow on the ground. Draw the sword. The speed of the robot's jet is extremely fast, and it is already close to the opponent's front line in just a blink of an eye. Blake roars like this. Cuckoo. 1,500 long swords were unsheathed at the same time, and they were not really famous swords. That is, a blacksmith shop could buy a bunch of miscellaneous swords for tens of thousands of Baileys, but it was just right in the hands of these robots. Puff 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 puff. Germa legion like a tiger descending from the mountain. If nothing else, at least it was a very sharp long sword shining brightly. The cold light brought blood from the sky. It has been said for a long time that each robot soldier in Vlad's dragon army can have a Dao strength value of at least 100 or so, perhaps a little higher. Vlad does not know Rokushiki, of course not. Fukuro, who knows CP9, can't get an accurate value for his ability to test Dao, but it's probably okay to look at it. Daoli 100. As a standard of measurement, a fully armed normal marine soldier has a Dao value of 10, that is to say, each robot's Dao value is 10 times that of a fully armed marine soldier. This is just a calculation of strength, not the copper-headed iron arm of the computing robot. If it is serious, it can be said that every dragon-tooth soldier has the combat power of millions of pirates with a bounty level, which is already amazing. Have such power. It's like a wolf rushing into a flock, blood splatters all the time, even if the Germa Legion is an artificial human directly created through genetic modification, even if their average combat strength is higher than that of ordinary soldiers. It came stronger, but it was also pale and powerless before the strength of Vlad's dragon army. When the long knife slashed sharply on the robot's relatively large head, making a somewhat harsh collision sound. Facts have proved that not just any miscellaneous soldier possesses iron-slashing swordsmanship, even the androids of the Vinsmoke family are of strong quality. But it was not strong enough to be able to cut through the thick shell of the dragon-toothed soldier with a knife. PFF'd. Then, the petite body slammed the sword and directly cut the strong man in front of him into two pieces. It was a very shocking scene, petite and strong and weak, but the two extremes were the same. This stared blankly at the surrounding battle. It should be said that it was a massacre. These Germa legions had no means of attack that could easily break through the outer shell of the dragon-toothed soldiers, and could only be slaughtered easily. Ah ha ha ha. Then Reiju heard such laughter. How is it, not bad? Miss Reiju, mine. The Dragon Army. Chapter 388 Hanging. You fellow, fire dragon. Judge, who was lying on the ground on the other side, spoke first. The man's face was filled with disbelief. You bastard, what are you doing? Do what? Vlad shook his head and said in surprise, what nonsense are you talking about? Stupid. The sound of the sword slashing on the metal, and the low sound of the sword tearing the human blood and splashing, the fire dragon pirates surrounded by the Shirasite and the Vinsmoke family heard it, which represents the most sinful and cruel human beings. Side voice. Of course I'm watching my subordinates defeat you. Vlad was a little surprised, otherwise what do you think I'm doing? Why, Mr. Vlad. Miss Raikou, the only one in the Vinsmoke family who was not hurt, asked with a puzzled look, why did you attack us? Couldn't figure out the conflict between the Vinsmoke family and the dragon pirates. Is it worth their journey to come and attack them? Why, if you want to say why. Vlad smiled and let go of his body, wrapped his arms gently, and pushed the man behind him out. This is an important reason. What? Reiju's eyes widened suddenly. Her brothers had the same expression as hers, and her father, who was lying on the ground, was not at all dignified, and didn't look like the king of hockey before. Long time no see, Germa. There was no superfluous expression on the chef's face, he always had a faint smile. Long time no see. Miss Raikou. You are. Raikou said in surprise. Dino. Damn. Vinsmoke IG, who was also hammered by the chef, reluctantly stood up. Is that so? Croft Dino. Youngji, the last of the three Bian brothers, raised his head. It's you. Ha ha ha, trouble. Is that so? Judge barely supported himself, blood running down his face. That's why he attacked us. The moment Dino stood up, these guys immediately understood why the Fire Dragon pirates suddenly raided them. This is really not hard to speculate. In fact, if it wasn't for being too excited, they would have realized immediately. There is a deep hatred between them and an important member of the Fire Dragon pirates, which is something they have long realized. Unfortunately, Germa, you guessed wrong. The chef said this with a sarcastic meaning. If it's just because of my hatred, if it's really just like this, then there is no need for the Fire Dragon pirates to dispatch 4 people, and only one of mine will come. Of course, it's because I alone can solve the hatred of the year, and because I alone can bury you all. Hollow up pointing triangle net www. What, you boy? The red-haired IG frowned and said angrily, have you forgotten the pain of the past? Do you think you can be presumptuous in front of us with a powerful captain? Huh, really? The chef said helplessly, I haven't seen the situation clearly yet. Hey. The chef's figure disappeared instantly. What? Ichi's eyes widened. He didn't notice how the chef disappeared, and then his eyes widened because... Da. A hand rested on his shoulder. Do you think that you will always be in a strong position just because you are powerful for a while? The chef casually appeared behind IG, and his hand had been lightly pressed on his shoulder. It's so stupid. Are you guys worthy of calling Sanji a failure? What are you kidding? Butter shaping. The human body makes. What? IG didn't have time to shout. The oil with a strong aroma from the chef's hands quickly gathered, covering IG in the blink of an eye, and an even more amazing change happened later. Ah! Such a scream can be called heart-piercing. Even the reformer IG, who doesn't have much emotion, screams in such an attack, because something is rushing into his body. Hey! IG broke away from the chef's palm and fell to the ground weakly. Then, he got up slowly, and then knelt in front of the chef, with his hands on the ground, and his forehead hit the ground heavily. In this case, it can be regarded as a little bit of recognition of your own powerlessness, right? The chef said so. Yeah haha, Captain, something is wrong with today's cook. Enel stood beside Vlad leisurely and said, a little too excited. Of course it is. Luo, who has always been silent, said this, as if he felt the same way. If it were me, I would be even more excited. Well. Vlad spread his hands and smiled. I said it at the beginning, these guys from the Vinsmoke family, leave them all to the chef. You are the captain. Enel yawned, you have the final say. Bastard, what did you do to IG? With such an angry roar, the man named Yuji rushed towards the chef. Fool. The chef didn't care at all, whether it was Yuji who rushed over or IG who was kneeling on the ground, it was the same, and he wasn't something to be taken seriously. Butter shaping. Forget it, I don't need such a trick to deal with you. The chef made a casual move, and 2 tentacles suddenly stretched out from behind, whistling and sweeping out, and the speed was so fast that it was completely unable to leave a shadow in the eyes of people. This is... In the blink of an eye, there was no chance for Youngji to fight back, and the chef's tentacles had already tied him tightly. Damn, bastard. Yuji struggled uncontrollably, but unfortunately, even with his amazing power, he couldn't break free from the bondage of the chef's tentacles. Let go of me. If I were you. Chef whispered, I wouldn't struggle so much. What? Yuji was a little surprised. Because... The chef smiled, perhaps a little smugly, it will explode. Boom. A strong explosion erupted right in front of the chef, and Yuji's tentacles exploded directly. As the chef said, it would explode. The strength of the chef has improved a lot compared to the past, as evidenced by the oil giant just now, so it is very simple to transform the oil produced at will as it is now. Youngji. Chapter 389 The Fall of Germa. Yuji. With a slight jump, the slender body has gently landed in front of the chef, and walked into the smoky area on his own. Miss Raikou. The chef looked hesitant. Don't worry, Miss Raikou, I just passed out, I didn't do anything hard. After all, it's very useful for the captain to keep you. As the chef himself said, the smoke dissipated quickly, and Yuji lay on the ground weakly, but he was only unconscious, and he didn't even get hurt. The chef skillfully controlled the explosion. The strong impact stunned him. So, in the same way, this guy IG is fine, he just can't move. Unlike Yuji who was stunned, this guy IG was directly injected into his body by the chef, which affected the fat in this guy's body, thus realizing the manipulation of this guy's body. More powerful abilities do not just mean with more bold use, it also represents more subtle operations. The chef is getting stronger and stronger. This time, Yuji was stunned, IG was controlled by the chef, Niji was knocked over by Enel before, Judge had almost lost his fighting ability because of the previous giant's attack, and now, the Vinsmoke family's fighting power is not only being defeated by Vlad's dragon aside from the army and the army of clones that were attacking from both sides of the opposing royal army, only Raikou-san was the only one left. Woo. Slowly heaving a sigh of relief, since the safety of his brother has been confirmed, then there is no need to worry too much. Leiju turned around, looked at the chef, and said with some emotion. I really can't imagine that the guy who was easily dealt with by me back then was already such a strong man. Time is passing. Chef replies, we are also constantly changing, we have all grown up. That's right. Leiju took 2 steps forward and blocked IG from her back. As an older sister, sometimes she had to protect her younger brothers from the wind and rain. We've all grown up, so. Are you going to fight? The chef looks a little hesitant. The chef is not a soft-hearted man. Although he is always smiling and polite, he will never show mercy when facing the enemy. The principle he pursues is that it is precisely because it is a recognized opponent, all must go all out. To mention that the current opponents are guys like Germa. They are not friendly with the chef. Although they accepted the entrustment of others, they are indeed the enemies who destroyed his country and killed his family. It's already very difficult to kill the desire of these guys. However, now, he is unwilling to take action, just because the woman in front of him, Vinsmoke Leiju, is his savior. All right. The sudden voice disturbed the chef's entanglement. Of course, Vlad would not embarrass his subordinates. He smiled and said, is the battle over? He said so. Oh. With such a loud roar, in the distance, mixed with Vlad's dragon army, a black crowd rushed over. Yes, the battle is over, the battle between Germa and this unfortunate kingdom is over. Well, because the Vinsmoke family was attacked, the clone legion with the Vinsmoke family as the highest protection object naturally began to retreat after losing command, trying to protect their master. Anyone know what it would be like to suddenly retreat during the battle? After the dragon-toothed soldiers joined the battle, coupled with the kingdom army chasing behind, the clone army of the Germa family has almost been wiped out by now. Hey. It's only you now. Vlad smiled, do you want to keep fighting? Miss Raikou. I surrender. Reiju raised her hands with a smile, and chose to admit defeat with discernment. Reiju, you bastard. Vlad felt that Reiju was very discerning, but it didn't mean that others felt that Reiju was doing the right thing. At the very least, the man named Vinsmoke Judge was very angry. You bastard. What did you say? Sorry, father. Reiju smiled and said casually, IG and the others have already failed, I can't resist them alone. Damn. Surprisingly, there were tears in Judge's eyes, and this man, this proud, self-esteemed man, actually burst into tears. Vlad has always thought that crying is not a great thing, or that being able to cry freely is also a very good thing, but he never thought that tears are a cheap thing. Tears, at least because of what the important things are flowing, right? Damn. Germa. Judge lay on the ground, unable to move. Is it the end of today? Ah ha ha ha, the end. Vlad shook his head. Maybe the former overlord of North Blue, the royal family who once ruled North Blue, the Vinsmoke family will really be destroyed today, not necessarily. Damn. The fist slammed on the ground, and the big tears kept streaming down. Ah ha ha ha. Vlad looked very happy. It's interesting. Hello, mustache, do you know who is the one who decides your life or death now? It's me. Vlad smiled. How about it? Kneel down and beg me, maybe I'll let you go. You bastard. If I had to use one word to describe Judge's expression at the moment, it might be the right word to use: the canthal split. How far should human dignity be trampled? Yeah, I really have the backbone. Vlad opened the mouth with interest. Then, since I'm courting death, it's not as good as your wish. Hello, doctor. Vlad turned his head. It's your turn to perform. Understood. Luo's eyes were half open, and this man who was obsessed with his practice had always been very tired recently, and he felt like he couldn't sleep at all. Room. Quote. The translucent space suddenly expanded, and instantly enveloped Germa's crowd. What? Reiju was a little surprised, then. Scoff. Luo's figure instantly appeared in front of her. Don't resist. Luo said so. His arm slammed forward. The destination was Leiju's full chest. It seemed a very obscene gesture. Scalpel. PFF'd. There was a low sound. Luo's palm did not press on Leiju's body, but a strange change did happen. Ah. As soon as her eyes opened, Leiju fell down softly. Scoff. Luo's figure appeared behind Leiju, holding a transparent cube in his hand, and inside was a beating heart. Hee. Vlad smiled. In this case, Germa is completely done, right? Mobile phone users, please visit Reading, a better reading experience. Chapter 390. Not a hero. Luo's ability is indeed terrifying, and the ability to directly dig out a person's heart without affecting the human body in the slightest is really terrifying. What do you want to do? Judge watched Luo walk towards him step by step, and said in a panic, what do you want to do? Don't move around, idiot. Luo raised his right hand expressionlessly and said in a low voice, what if I miss it? If I kill you directly, the captain will blame me. Can. PFF'd. Before Judge could speak again, Luo quickly took his heart away. Really, just these two sentences back and forth. Should you be worthy of being a king? There is no accident. Vlad, Chef, Enel, the strongest of the fire dragon pirates are all present. Even the powerhouse of the four emperors admiral level has to peel off the skin. No one here can stop Luo. After Judge, Luo took away the hearts of the three brothers, Ig, Niji, and Yuji. In this way, the Vinsmoke family was completely controlled by the fire dragon pirates. It's done. Luo walked to Vlad's side with 5 hearts in his hands, and said casually, Captain. Woo-ha-ha, this time, everyone. Vlad took out a heart from Luo's hand and squeezed it lightly. Do you already know your situation? Hey. The beautiful young lady slammed into her chest. The expression on her face was very painful, and her delicate and beautiful cheeks were twisted into a ball, which was very distressing. Ah, what a bad luck. Miss Raikou. Vlad smiled and threw the heart that belonged to Raiju in his hand to the somewhat dumbfounded chef. Is it okay to leave it to you? Chef. Huh. The chef caught Reiju's heart in a daze, then turned his head to look at Reiju, whose expression on his face had stretched a little, and then looked at Vlad again, looking a little ignorant. Leave it to me. The chef looked in disbelief. I mean. Vlad pointed to the other hearts on Luo's hand. All these guys from the Vinsmoke family are handed over to you. What are you thinking? Ah. The chef smiled awkwardly. Clap. Okay. Vlad clapped his hands and smiled. The Vinsmoke thing is done, then. Vlad turned his head and looked at the royal army who had surrounded himself. He said lazily, then what? You guys, what's up? Do you want to replace Germa as our opponent? Naturally, Chasing after victory is something that all armies like to do. Isn't it very relaxing and pleasant to do things like chasing the enemy and chasing the north? Therefore, after the defeat of the Germa family's clone army, the royal army has gradually surrounded, and Vlad's group has been surrounded. It was Vlad's dragon army that was isolated between Vlad and the army of the royal army. The 1,500 dragon-tooth soldiers were hardly attrition. Because they didn't get Vlad's order, they just blocked it. In front of the royal army, they organized them to contact Vlad and a few people. If you want to die, the world has so many ways to commit suicide. Vlad said, there's no need to choose such a stupid way. It would be too funny if you finally won the war, but ended up subjugating your country for such a stupid reason. Vlad smiled. Crash. Vlad's reckless words naturally won't get a good response, and the royal army surrounding Vlad's group subconsciously clenched the weapons in their hands. Yaha, hello, Captain. Enel smiled excitedly. I asked the chef to do it before, now it's my turn. I haven't done it for so long, I feel like I'm going to rust. Well. Vlad said casually, I don't care, it's up to you. Yeah haha, that's all right. Enel laughs, I'm going to smash everything in here. However, Enel's idea of violence does not seem to be able to achieve. Please don't get me wrong. Your lord. With such a loud voice, a certain man appeared more and more. The tall and sturdy body was covered with armor, and he could clearly see the many wounds on the man's body. With his outstanding eyesight, Vlad even saw that there was a very conspicuous penetration in the position of the man's shoulders. Injury, if it wasn't for a sword in his hand, perhaps this man would have been untenable long ago. Please don't get me wrong. No malice. Huh. Vlad looked a little surprised, not because of what the man said, but because the man was walking towards this side with difficulty step by step, and he didn't care about the army of dragons guarding him. Tooth Legion, this man walked over slowly. We have no ill will. The man stopped not far from Vlad and said, or should we say, how could we be malicious? How could we be malicious to the hero who saved our country? Only at this time can I clearly see the man's appearance. He is a little old, his hair is gray, and he looks like he is in his 50s. Hero. Vlad raised an eyebrow. My name is Jack, the king of the kingdom of Casno, although I know that words can't explain anything, but the king of this country, who was seriously injured. The man who was no longer young lowered his head and bent down deeply. Now, I really don't know what kind of gesture I can use to express my gratitude. Thank you very much, Lord Vlad the Fire Dragon, thank you. Saved my treasure. Hey King. Vlad looked a little surprised, the king is charging. Isn't this stupid? If you die, everything will be over, right? Yes, but. Old Jack straightened up with tears on his face. And then he smiled, I really love this country. Oh that's it. Vlad nodded, he understood the feeling. So, thank you so much. Jack bent down again. You are our hero. Hero. Vlad smiled sarcastically, don't be joking, who is a hero? I'm just a pirate, I can only do what I want to do, figure it out, old man. I only came here for Germa, who is interested in saving you guys. What would the world be like if you were only grateful for someone else's intentional help? Jack said, those who do good deeds are heroes and deserve to be thanked. Don't people who do no good deeds should be thankful and can't be considered heroes? I don't know what others think, I just understand, at least, Your Excellency Fire Dragon. You are our hero. Hey, I said, you old man can really talk. Vlad laughed, I'm quite comfortable with that. Ha ha. Old Jack laughed along, I'm quite confident in this aspect. If so. Vlad smiled, I really need your help with something. Chapter 391 Angry Sengoku. Blue blue blue. Blue blue blue. Even in such a noisy environment, the sound is very harsh, but the owner of this phone bug has no intention of answering the phone. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Not bad. Vlad held a cherry pie in one hand and seemed to enjoy it very much. Hey, old man, yes, your chef's craftsmanship is really good. Yeah. The man sitting next to him, the king of this country, the kingdom of Casino, smiled. Even though his whole body was covered in bandages, he accompanies Vlad to eat and drink. I have to say that he is a very thoughtful king. Well. Picking up a piece of cherry pie and biting hard, the man frowned casually. It's nothing special. Hee hee. Vlad smiled. Of course, the first time you eat it, you will naturally feel fresh. Of course, if you eat it often, you certainly won't feel anything special. Isn't it obvious? Ha ha ha, yes, yes. The king named Jack laughed. Then. Wow, cracked, cracked. With such a shout, the doctor who had been waiting on the side rushed over to treat the open wound to the wayward His Majesty the King. Ha ha ha, it's really boring, I can't do anything if I get hurt. Jack scratched his head, a little embarrassed. So please don't move, Your Majesty. His doctor, a man who doesn't look young, said angrily. Sorry, sorry. Jack is good at it, at least, it seems that way. There is actually a king like you in the world. Vlad said this while filling his mouth with cherry pie and donuts. Really? Jack smiled and raised his hand so that the doctor could change the bandage and treat the wound. Well, so I already have some understanding. Why would someone entrust Germa to kill you? Vlad said casually. It is a simple truth, a truth that anyone can understand. If someone is always different, then this person will always be hated, and no other sins are needed. Different from everyone, relatively being an outlier is already the biggest crime for everyone. Call. Jack let out a slow breath and said, yeah, but I didn't expect the situation to be so serious. But speaking of it, Your Excellency Vlad. Jack looked at the phone bug that had been ringing for the 12th time since the banquet, and said, you really don't need to answer this call. Huh, oh. Vlad looked astonished. I said why it was so noisy, it turned out to be a phone bug. Really, who is it, who came out to disturb me while I was enjoying dinner? Click. Vlad then answered the phone. No surprise, the people over there were extremely angry, which is of course, anyone who keeps making a phone call and the other party keeps not answering will also feel angry. Do you know what you did? Damn it. The moment Vlad answered the phone, the appearance of the phone bug made a phone call instantly. The round-toed mirror was hung on the bridge of the nose, and a hat with a seagull standing on it was added on the head, and the chin was more out of a long braid. Inside the open mouth was an extremely angry voice. Fire Dragon Vlad. You bastard, what the hell are you doing? Oh, this voice is really familiar. Vlad scratched his ears. Although he was prepared, the sudden loud voice still made his ears uncomfortable. Isn't this Mr. Sengoku? Of course, Vlad knew that this phone bug was handed to him by Garp the Fist when he traded with Marine. It was specially used to contact them Shichibukai's phone bug, and at this time, he would use this phone bug to call him. Of course there will be no one else on the phone. It's been a long time. Hey, Mr. Sengoku, how are you doing? Vlad smiled and took a bite of the cherry pie. Is there any order to call me all of a sudden? This can't be done, Mr. Sengoku, I'm not your subordinate. If you want to give me an order, let Gorosei 5 elders come on, maybe I'll take it if I'm in a good mood. Stop pretending to be stupid. Fire Dragon. Sengoku's anger Vlad can intuitively understand just by looking at the ferocious phone bug in front of him. It's really hard for this little snail. Speaking of which, all the phone bugs in this world are Emperor Yan Yi. Do you want me to tell you what you did today? Sengoku can be said to be furious. What did you do? Vlad looked very surprised, and asked with a smile. Nothing was done. Stop kidding me, you bastard. Sengoku's voice grew louder and louder. The Kingdom of Germa is a government-affiliated country. As Shichibukai, you openly attacked the government-affiliated countries and captured all the Vinsmoke family. Are you still trying to play stupid to me? Fire Dragon, you damn scum, doesn't your Shichibukai want to do it? Hey, isn't it? Are you going to remove my Shichibukai title? Vlad leaned back in the chair leisurely and smiled. This is really scary. If I don't have this title, I'll be targeted by Marine's admirals, right? Whoa, so scary. It scares me. I can barely eat. With that said, Vlad stuffed another donut into his mouth, chewing so loudly that Sengoku on the opposite side could hear it clearly. Don't give me that smiley face, bastard. I know that sea scum like you can't be trusted at all. Sengoku sounded resentful. Oh, yeah, but it's useless to say that to me, Mr. Sengoku. If you don't want Shichibukai, please go to the Gorosei, 5 elders, and say it to Tenryubito. Vlad looked very playful. Unlike Akainu, who was jagged later, the man Sengoku, perhaps because of his age, wanted to uphold the policy of tenderness and would hardly refute the government's decision. Stop talking nonsense. Fire Dragon. Sengoku changed the subject abruptly. Since I've already called you, you know what to do, right? Justice has no room for you. Justice can't stand me. I'm sorry, Mr. Sengoku, I don't know anything. What are you talking about? Vlad smiled, finally got the meat in his mouth. Cake, you made me spit it out, are you kidding me? Don't play stupid, Fire Dragon. Sengoku was furious. Just taking action against the government-affiliated countries is enough for us to get rid of your Shichibukai name. Do you really want to die? What are you talking about for the government to join the country? Vlad smiled. I have a valid reason. Mr. Sengoku. Chapter 392 Help. Shichibukai is one of the 3 major forces that maintain the balance of the world. This is a well-known thing. Compared with the 4 emperors and marine headquarters, Shichibukai, who naturally will not cooperate, is actually very weak. Of course, the actual role of Shichibukai is not to contain the 4 emperors, this is the job of the marine headquarters. What Shichibukai has to do is to deter the fish pirates at sea and the new pirates. In fact, compared to the 4 emperors sitting on the throne of the New World, these miscellaneous fish pirates are the most troublesome for the government. Just like weeds, the spring breeze blows and grows again. X23 US. Com updates fastest. In order to deter these ignorant and fearless pirates and new pirates with infinite potential, the government came up with the good idea of Shichibukai. When the force is stretched, it hires big pirates like Vlad to deter this chaotic sea. It's a really good idea, but it's not enough to win over these rebellious big pirates. The legal right to loot is one of the privileges that Shichibukai hates most from the people on the sea and marine. However, even Shichibukai, who has the privilege of making marine grit his teeth with the support of the government, has many places that must not be touched. One of them is that it is absolutely not allowed to take action against the government's affiliated countries. After all, the affiliated countries are the foundation of the government. If it does not get the support of the allied countries, then the government will lose its greatest support, that is, it will no longer represent the world in justice. Naturally, the government cannot allow such behavior. The sand crocodile in the original work is an example. The government doesn't know that he is plotting the Pluto. His crime is trying to subvert the Sand Kingdom. This ancient country is the government's allied country. What is unknown is that it is even 20 of the world governments. One of the founding countries. Therefore, what Vlad is doing now violates the most basic tacit understanding between the 2 sides. Although the Kingdom of Germa is a country without a land, it is still an evil country that often goes to war with people. However, it is one of the countries that join the world government, and it is still an authority. The very high kind, able to talk to and cooperate with the government. Therefore, it can be said that the situation of the Fire Dragon pirates is already very dangerous, and the government does not have much tolerance for such behavior. A valid reason. What are you talking about, bastard? Sengoku completely ignored Vlad's words. There is no reason to condone your actions. Not necessarily. Vlad smiled. Mr. Sengoku, you know what's going on today, don't you? What do you want to say? Sengoku said solemnly. What do I want to say? Isn't it very simple? Vlad grinned with a mocking look. Isn't what happened in this country today a war between two countries? Why, is only one country allowed to seek foreign aid, and the other country is not allowed? Hello. Hey, isn't that going too far? Both countries are government affiliations. What? The phone bug's eyes widened. One can imagine how surprised Sengoku was on the other end of the phone. Well, I knew you didn't believe it. What a naughty old man. Vlad looked for a hand. Come on, Mr. Kasno, it's time for you to pay me back. Ha ha ha, is it finally time for me to come in handy? With such a big laugh, the king of the kingdom of Casino, who has been wrapped in a layer of bandages again, Mr. Kasnojak took the phone bug from Vlad's hand. Hey, is that Marshal Sengoku? Jack said so. I'm Jack, Casino Jack. I'm an unknown junior. I don't know if Marshal Sengoku knows. Yes, Sir Jack. The face of Jack, Sengoku's attitude is obviously not knowing how much kinder. I saw you at the World Conference 2 years ago, and I still can't forget it. Ha ha ha, it's such a joy to be remembered by Marshal Sengoku. Jack laughed. Then, Lord Jack. Sengoku's business suddenly fell a little. That's right, Mr. Sengoku. Jack said this as a matter of course. Your Excellency Fire Dragon accepted my entrustment to help me win this war. Mr. Jack, do you know what you're talking about? Sengoku asked. Of course I know. When the just government, the invincible Marine couldn't help me, someone saved the country, saved me and my people's lives. Jack laughed. I just don't get it. Quote. Sengoku was a little silent, but he couldn't do anything. As the government's allied countries, since the two countries adjusted the invalid option to go to war, no matter which side Marine was on, it was not allowed. So, Mr. Vlad's actions were justified and did not violate government regulations, right? Marshal Sengoku. Jack smiled. Quote. But, Dragon. After a moment of silence, Sengoku finally took a step back. Perhaps you have not committed a crime, but you must release the Vinsmoke family. What? Vlad smiled and leaned forward. Are you talking to me? Mr. Sengoku, are you talking to me? Isn't that saying that justice can no longer tolerate me? You. Sengoku is out of breath. Ahaha, just kidding, kidding. Vlad smiled, looking very happy. I'm not yours if justice can't tolerate it, right? Mr. Sengoku. Stop talking nonsense. Sengoku almost gritted his teeth and said this. Is it about the Vinsmoke family? Vlad smiled. Don't worry, Mr. Sengoku, I won't do anything bad to them, I'll release them tomorrow. This is the best. Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief, so the matter explained by the superiors was finally completed. Of course, in the end, whether they want to go or not is their own will, right? It has nothing to do with me, right? Vlad smiled. What if he released a few guys from the Vinsmoke family? Their hearts were already in his hands. How did the Vinsmoke guys run? What did you say? Sengoku said urgently. Guess what? Vlad hung up the phone. Is that all right, Mr. Vlad? Jack looked a little curious. The other party is still Marshal Marine, right? Hey, Marshal, not bad. But, Mr. Jack. Vlad smiled. You know, the people who follow the rules are never scary. Haha, yes, too. Jack said with a smile, the righteous Marine is always subject to the temperance of the less righteous. Hey. And Vlad ate to the tune of Enel, who was standing on the table again drunkenly singing. Chapter 393 Next thing. Bang. The table shattered violently, and the man behind the table was full of anger. Damn, this bastard. The man's name is Sengoku the Buddha, the Marshal of Marine's headquarters. At this moment, he just ended the call with Vlad and is in the midst of a tantrum. Damn, arrogant guy, pirates are a bunch of scum. Really? On the sofa opposite, the tall man with the blindfold on his eyes pushed up the blindfold in annoyance, and said lazily, Mr. Sengoku, can't you be quieter? Wow! Before the man's voice could finish, a pen holder rushed towards his face at such a fast speed that it had turned into a black shadow, and it was difficult for ordinary people to dodge such a high speed. Kara! Some sour teeth sounded, and the temperature in the room dropped instantly. The pen holder, which was about to fall over the man's face, was wrapped in ice block, and then it shattered into pieces of ice. Era, Mr. Sengoku. The man who uses ice is naturally no one else. The current Marine Admiral, Kuzan scratched his head, and said, "It surprised me." Ha ha ha, Kuzan, Sengoku is so mad at that pirate kid. Puff tilde I haven't seen Sengoku like this for a long time. Can make fun of Sengoku like this will never be the second person to think. Hero Marine, Garp the Fist is sitting on the sofa, biting the senbei, looking very happy. Garp, you bastard. Sengoku said angrily, do you know what that guy did? Openly attacked the countries that joined the world government, and the government's face was ruined. PFF tilde ha ha ha, it's too easy to sweep the floor. Garp burst into tears with laughter, the government's face is really worthless. As the king of the kingdom of Casino also bought. He really treats people like a fool. If it wasn't for his participation, the kingdom of Casino would have been destroyed, and he actually said that he hired the fire dragon. Sengoku looked very angry. Does he have anything to tempt the fire dragon? Isn't that of course, Sengoku. Garp's rare seriousness, after all, the other party is the hero who saved his country. I understand, of course I understand. But this guy is too dangerous. Sengoku said, the fire dragon has no reverence at all, and is completely unconstrained by the government. I think, even if he is really deprived of his Shichibukai name, he will not be restrained by it. So, Mr. Sengoku. Kuzan yawned, leaned on the back of the sofa, and said leisurely, are you going to kill him? No. Sengoku scratched his hair in annoyance, and said with dissatisfaction, at first, his attack on Germa this time was a vicious incident that was enough to expel him from Shichibukai's position, but Tenryubito spoke for him again, as long as he released him. Members of the Vinsmoke family will not be held accountable. Quote. Era, there's really no way. Kuzan smiled and pulled down the blindfold, covering his eyes and lying comfortably on the sofa. I'd better sleep some more. Although you can't do it directly. Sengoku said, but the investigation of the fire dragon needs to be more in-depth, I have always suspected. He's been linked to what happened in Mariajoy 3 years ago, and the guys at CP haven't stopped investigating. Perhaps, we can open up the situation from this aspect. At the same time, in the faraway North Blue, in the palace of the Kingdom of Casno, there are some dim corridors. Miss Reiho. Carrying a lunchbox, the chef emerged from the darkness and knocked lightly on a certain door. Please have dinner. Squeak. The wooden door opened gently, revealing the face of the beautiful Raiku-san, Dino. At first hearing the name, the chef suddenly had a momentary trance. Dino, What's the matter? Reiju looked a little surprised. Ha ha. Chef smiled, it's nothing, it's just that I haven't heard the name for a long time and I miss it. What? Reiju looked a little confused. You don't understand. The chef smiled and handed the food box in his hand to Reiju, and said, it's not a bad experience. It's completely different from that time. Reiju did not refuse, and took the food box from the chef, with a feeling of emotion. The boy who was bitter and hated at that time has become a very reliable man. Because this sea is really majestic. Chef said, even I want to gallop on this sea, so I have to become more reliable, because my partner is also very reliable. That's it, I've met a great partner, Dino. Reiju smiled, that's right, Dino. Sanji, how is he? Sanji. The chef smiled, raised his head, seemed to see through the stone ceiling, and saw East Blue in the distance, and then, he said, good day. As he said at that time, he has become a great cook. Very good. Reiju smiled with some relief. That's it, that's great. His wish has already come true. Well. Chef nodded, I can feel it, he's already here. Come. Reiju was a little surprised. Well, it's already here. Chef smiled, towards his dream, Sanji has come to this sea. It's almost time to meet again. Really? Reiju smiled, very brightly, then I'm looking forward to it. The two of them tacitly didn't mention what happened today. The chef didn't think he did anything wrong, and of course Reiju knew that he couldn't shake the will of the man in front of him. The man far away in East Blue, Vinsmoke. Sanji does not know at this moment, in the far North Blue, there are still two people who miss him, although the distance is far apart, but fate is always impermanent, as long as still living on this sea, we will meet again sooner or later. And for Sanji, the chef and Reiju, this day is probably not far away. At the end of the night, time flies, and the renovation in the kingdom of Casino is over. The big ship of the Fire Dragon pirates rises into the sky again, and gradually moves away from the country that brought them a beautiful night. Ah, it's time to solve the problems left over from history. Vlad muttered to himself, paced slowly, and walked into the cabin step by step. It's almost there. Are you ready? Teach. Chapter 394 As bright as the sun. The flying pirate ship flying in the sky, the deck of the Platinum D-Drake is very rare and somewhat empty today. The members of the Fire Dragon pirates who usually like to move on the deck are very tacit understanding today. In the cabin, X23 US. Com updates fastest. There were only two people on the deck. On the top of the cabin, Vlad sat leisurely, with his hands on the ground behind his back, his head raised, and he looked at the blue sky leisurely. At such a height, what did he want to see? The white clouds are a bit difficult, but because of this, Vlad can always see the most beautiful and clear sky in the sky. Vlad is not alone here, there is also a guy lying weakly beside Vlad, with dark skin, strong body hair, obese body. The man's name is Teach, Marshall D. Teach, who was captured by Vlad before and wanted the guy who used it for research results but didn't use it. Oh, the weather is so nice. Vlad smiled like this, his eyes narrowed with Vivi's eyes, and the sun shone on him a little warmly. I have to say that this world is really amazing. It stands to reason that at such a high altitude, the air must be thin. The temperature is very low, but such a situation does not apply in this world. After all, even in a world where there is air in outer space, it is not very normal to have an air pressure and temperature that is no different from the sea at such a high altitude. Right. Vlad turned his head and looked at the man lying immobile on the ground, Teach. Quote. Speechless, Teach has completely lost the power to speak. Luo has said before that even with his super medical skills with the fruits of surgery, all he can do is to continue Teach. Just a few days of life. However, even so, Luo underestimated Teach's amazing constitution. He was able to survive for such a long time when his internal organs were burned in a mess by Vlad, until the fire dragons came to North Blue, dealt with the Vinsmoke family, and then after returning to the voyage, for such a long period of time, this black fat man was even weaker, but he was still alive. As expected of a black beard, it was really terrifying. It's amazing. Vlad opened his mouth in amazement and said, Teach, you are amazing. You can actually last so many days. Vlad understands a little, because this guy can immediately become one of the new 4 emperors after getting the dark fruit and the shock fruit, because his body is indeed extremely powerful, bottomless physical strength, amazing the strange power, this guy is really powerful. Okay, Teach, is it enough to live so many more days? Vlad smiled like this, I wanted to kill you directly, but for some indescribable reason, you have lived so many more days, I am really sorry. To be honest, Vlad feels a little guilty about Blackbeard's current situation. Although Blackbeard is definitely not a good person, it's not a problem to say that he is a vicious, despicable and shameless villain, but Vlad recognizes this opponent. Since he was an opponent he recognized, but he was treated like this, it really made him a little ashamed. So, Teach. Vlad said this, with some smiles, today, I will ask you to die. Me. The fat body was struggling slightly, and the injury had exhausted most of Teach's vitality. Even in the face of a life-and-death crisis, he could hardly move now. Don't be afraid, Teach. Vlad said, life has a beginning and an end. The most helpless thing in life is watching one's own life come to an end little by little but can't do anything about it. This is really the most fair thing in the world, and no one is an exception. Even if I live longer than you, it's not bad. Vlad thought so sincerely, compared to this sea, we are really small. So, your life is taken by me, don't be afraid, because although your dream has been shattered, but I will do what you can't do. If there is a kingdom of heaven, just stand on it and applaud for my feats and my excellence. Vlad can be said to be quite shameless. Quote. Teach lay on the ground, his eyes narrowed, and he was powerless to stop whatever Vlad wanted to do. Woo ha 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 ha, accidentally said something that was not there. Vlad stood up, take a good look at the world again. Teach. Scoff. Covered with fiery red dragon scales, the tall dragon man flapping his wings has appeared on the top of the cabin. Blessing. There. The flames soared into the sky, and then shrank sharply. The white gold dragon man with 4 wings appeared in front of Teach again. It was Vlad in this form that showed his terrifying power and easily defeated him completely. All right, Teach. Vlad smiled, I want to give you a brilliant ending. Vlad stretched out his right hand, and white gold flames began to linger on it. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. The white gold flames began to gather in his hands frantically. It didn't take long for a small fireball to condense on his hand, emitting amazing light and heat, and it looked like Vlad was holding a sun on his hand. Then I will fulfill this promise today. Floated towards Teach. I should have used this move a long time ago, but thinking about it a few days later, it's not much worse, right? Mithra. Hey. The small fireball touched Blackbeard's body lightly, but it did not directly produce an earth-shattering explosion like the tricks Vlad used in the past, but it was like a drop of water dripping into the sea. A little wave was directly integrated into Blackbeard's body. This is a trick specially prepared for you. Vlad smiled and raised his hand gently, and Teach's body also floated. Goodbye, Teach, One Piece King of Pirates, it's up to me. Quote. Vlad saw it, Teach's eyes opened, and Vivi's eyes were on him. Ziahaha. Not an illusion, Vlad did hear such laughter. Quote. Vlad had a smile on his face. Farewell. Teach flew higher and higher, and soon had completely moved away from the platinum D-drag. Teach. Quote. Vlad squeezed his right hand gently. Mithra, made by the sun. Boom. A violent wind swept from the sky in the distance, and a huge white gold fireball suddenly formed above the sky, just like as bright as the sun. Chapter 395 Research Progress. Wow. The strong wind even made Vlad's precious ship tremble slightly. Vlad has recovered his human form and is still standing there, with a pergola in his right hand, looking at the huge artificial sun in the distance. How is it, Teach? Vlad said to himself, it's a glorious end, isn't it? Just like what Vlad said, it is really a brilliant trick, just like creating a sun artificially above the sky, which is extraordinary and bright. Woo. Vlad breathed a deep sigh of relief, it's done, now, there's no problem. Well, Mithra, this trick is quite powerful, but... Vlad pinched his chin, looking a little tangled, it's a pity it's a bit tasteless. The name of the move I used just now was Mithra, a move named after the sun god in Vlad's previous life in Persian mythology. It is indeed a very beautiful move in terms of effect. By hitting the extremely condensed fireball into the opponent's body to achieve the internal explosion of the opponent, it can be said that once the attack is hit, it is a very powerful move. Even Whitebeard, such a move inside the body can only be used. There is nothing left. However, the embarrassing thing is that it is really not an easy task to put the flame into someone else's body. He is a very delicate guy. Not only is it not easy to control, but the more troublesome thing is that as long as the opponent still resists, it's easy to dodge such an attack. Not to mention, the existence of hockey can easily prevent the flames from invading his body. Well, although it's not very practical. Vlad jumped gently to the deck and said to himself, but maybe one day it will come in handy. At this point, if there is no Vlad's existence, he will soon become the 4 emperors, and it is very likely that he will become the One Piece King of Pirates. Blackbeard, Marshall, D. Teach has ended his voyage. His dream, his life, was burned to ashes in this huge fireball, and it came to an end. Under Vlad's intervention, the original trajectory of this sea has been completely deviated. No one knows what will happen in the future. Of course Vlad himself does not know, the plot he is familiar with has begun to change. Of course, Vlad didn't care much, and it didn't matter how the future would change. As long as he was strong enough, he certainly didn't need to be afraid of the stormy seas. Dash 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 dash. Boom. The metal door opened a big hole again, and Vlad walked leisurely into Passo's laboratory. After dealing with Blackbeard, he was most concerned about the progress of Mr. Passo's experiment. If you waste so much effort, of course you have to produce results. I said, Captain. There was some dissatisfaction, and a man's voice with a heavy complaining tone came from one side. Can't you knock on the door properly? It's annoying to keep increasing my workload like this. Yeah, it's you today, God. Enno leaning against the wall and yawning in a very bored manner. He smiled and said hello, thank you for your hard work. Did you just turn the door over like that? Enno looked like he had a headache. Captain, you are a reasonable person. Woo ha ha. Vlad smiled and didn't care, then asked, how are you? How are those guys? Hey, see for yourself. Enno pouted to one side and said casually, it's still honest. Vlad turned his head slightly and saw another group of people in the room. Wearing a white turban on his head and a white coat on his body, he was fiddling with a bunch of bottles and jars that looked very professional, and Vlad couldn't even name it. Vlad, who has always been a quiet student, has no interest in these things since his previous life, let alone the idea of talking with these guys in the past. Then, when he turned his head slightly, he saw 2 men who were not sure what they were discussing. One was a biologist from the Fire Dragon Pirates, Comrade Passo, who was obsessed with research, and the other was Vlad. The captive who came to North Blue this time, the head of the Vinsmoke family, the king of Germa Kingdom, is also Vinsmoke Judge, the world's top scientist. Vlad has obeyed the government's request to release several members of the Vinsmoke family, but Judge is not included. This trip is for this man and his scientific troupe. The rest of the brothers and Miss Leju are very concerned about Vlad. It is really worthless to say that, they have taken away their hearts, and their life and death are in their hands, so of course there is no need to keep them around. Of course, the external news is that the man Vinsmoke Judge has been killed in the war, and the kingdom of Germa is succeeded by his eldest son Ig, but this news also deceives ordinary people. At least Marine knows that Judge is on Frau German's ship, but that doesn't matter. The government's restraint on Judge is not that strong. In the original story, this guy married Charlotte Linlin and the government did nothing to him. It's not unreasonable for Enel to stay in this laboratory. Once the guy in Paso enters the research state, he can't come back to his senses. These scientists belonging to the Vinsmoke family are not the same as the Fire Dragon Pirates, especially their loyal man Judge just by their side. The oppressed people led by someone are prone to violent resistance, so even if their heart is deprived, Vlad is not very relieved. It is a good way to find someone to supervise. So, you two. Vlad walked to the 2 of them and asked softly, how is the research progress? Ah. Judge, who instantly recovered from his research state, took a step back subconsciously, and then looked at Vlad with humiliation and anger in his eyes. Fire dragon, you bastard. Yeah, are you mad at me, Mr. Judge? Vlad smiled, with a very bad smile. How about it? Do you want to resist? Okay, I can give you a chance to resist. Even if you fail, I won't kill you. I will forgive you once. Of course, it's only for this time, and after this time, you have to work hard. Otherwise, the Vinsmoke family might really be destroyed. Damn. Judge's anger. Vlad can see clearly. It's really interesting that he is about to bite into pieces. Ahaha, just kidding. So, Vlad smiled and looked very happy. How can I give up so easily after thinking of a useful scientist like you? Quote. Judge's eyes were full of humiliation. Well, Captain. Until this time, Paso finally noticed Vlad's arrival. Have you finally noticed? It's only in front of you that I'm so inconspicuous. Vlad was only a little powerless for this man. So what? Mr. Paso, what about the results of the research? How's it going? Mobile phone users, please browse Reading for a better reading experience. Chapter 396 Drago x Tesolo. Research progress. There was no expression on Paso's face. The man had reached the point where his expression couldn't match his thoughts. Suno. Is that so? Vlad smiled. That's great. Well, Mr. Judge is great. Paso looked somewhat admiring. The research on lineage factors has reached a very in-depth level. X23US.com has the fastest update. Of course, after all. Vlad glanced at Judge and said, although it is not known to the world, in fact, Mr. Judge and Dr. Vegapunk are the top scientists who discovered the design of life such as the bloodline factor. What? Paso looked surprised. Is Mr. Judge actually one of the discoverers of the bloodline factor? Judge was also surprised. How did Vlad know about his past? It's not a well-known secret. Yeah, that's why I was a little surprised. Vlad asked, why, Mr. Paso, are you also proficient in this area of knowledge? Dr. Vegapunk has been arrested by the government just because he discovered this knowledge, and has been working for the government since then. How did your teacher know that? Neat. Paso is also a little confused. His teacher has never told him these things. Mr. Paso. Judge is very polite to Paso. Of course, as a top scientist, after encountering an outstanding scientist like Paso who is similar to his specialization, of course he will respect the idea. This is for standing. The respect of those who have the same height as oneself is also the respect of oneself with the same height as the other. Your teacher should be Hakata, right? Me. Paso looked surprised. Quote. A long time. The man thought about it for a long time, then took a deep breath. It seems so. That's all right, that guy. Judge looked nostalgic. I was also a research partner with us at the time. I haven't seen each other for a long time, really. Oh. Paso nodded understandingly. Okay. Vlad waved his hand. Let's stop here for the plot that is close to friendship. Now tell me how the research is going, you two. I'm more concerned about this matter. Well, Captain. Paso raised a finger. We also need a devil fruit. To verify the last guess. That's it. Vlad smiled. Does that mean we've reached the end? It's amazing. 2 top scientists plus a top scientific team is really amazing. Has it come this far so soon? It's amazing. I knew that if you guys are partners together, there's absolutely no problem. Nothing. Paso's expression was indifferent, and he said softly, it's mainly because of the existence of that dog. It's a wolf. Is the canine fruit direwolf good shape? Is it a wolf? Then it's all right. Vlad smiled. Go find the devil fruit right now. I think that guy won't let me down. The flying pirate ship is going fast towards the new world. Mosamoxi, is that Tessero? The pirate ship flying in the sky has begun to sink slowly. Vlad sits leisurely on the faucet of the pirate ship's bow. This is his exclusive position, the throne that belongs to him alone. It's me, your good friend. Vlad was holding a phone bug in his hand and giggling. Vlad. Tessero's low voice came from the other side of the phone. Yes, of course, your best friend. Vlad said, the things you asked me to get you have already been brought back for you. Really? It's so fast. Tessero looked surprised. Haha, it's necessary. Vlad smiled, when you help me, you are always quick and resolute, and of course I can't be slow when I help you now. Besides, have you also contributed to the Vinsmoke family's affairs? Vlad looked as though I had seen it all. Hey, I can't think of any other reason for Marine being so generous. Castle No Kingdom spoke to him. Vlad didn't think it would be so easy to let Marine give up. Shichibukai is a thorn in the side, and there is a chance to kill a Shichibukai. Will the radicals in Marine show mercy? Vlad didn't expect a guy like Akainu to release water. In fact, Marine's attitude can be seen from the fact that Sengoku talked to him. The willingness to communicate is a compromise. Vlad is not stupid. Of course, he knows that someone is behind the scenes. Otherwise, how could Marine talk to him? How much crap is he? Does Marine really love Shichibukai? And, of course, the man behind the wheel is not someone else. Among the people Vlad knows who are capable of doing such a thing, and willing to do such a thing, of course, only Tessero. Oh, I'm still waiting for you to bring me what I want. Tessero said, I just don't want to lose hope. Understand. Vlad smiled, of course I understand, you don't want to let your hope fail. Do you? Of course. Tessero smiled. Well, my ship will be here soon. Vlad said so. The platinum drag was about to land close to the sea. You haven't seen it yet. It will surprise you, the only flying pirate ship in the world. Sorry. Tessero looked a little sarcastic. Gransolo is the best boat in the world. Search the whole world and there will be no better boat than him. HMPH, think too much, short-sighted guy. I'll let you know that fashion value is the greatest force in the world. You can't even imagine how cool the flying pirate ship is. Vlad hummed a little unhappily. You can still be arrogant now, just wait and see, I'll show you what the best ship in the world looks like. Wait and see. Tessero was also full of fighting spirit. I'll be waiting for you at the top of the central tower. Do you know where it is? You know, just wait and see. Vlad grabbed the phone bug with a smug smile on his face. Clap. Vlad slapped twice on the spigot of the platinum drag. You're the best ship in the world, aren't you? Quote. Well, of course tilde Vlad's boat is the best boat tilde. Well. Vlad's eyes widened. Chapter 397 Stussy. Well, this is the legendary entertainment city in the world. The huge ship, the Platinum D-Drag, all the members of the Fire Dragon Pirates except the White Bear Babo who is still at the helm in the cabin, Passo and the supervisor Germa who are obsessed with research. Dr. Luo has already assembled. Well, thinking about it this way, it seems that there are not many people on the deck. The red-haired woman in a big red dress that set off her bumpy figure looked a little surprised. Is that Gulen Tessolo? Well, that's it. Vlad was still sitting on the faucet with the brightest smile on his face. There is no second entertainment city in the world that can compare to it. Ahaha, that's great, right? Vlad looked back and said, it's an amazing city, isn't it? Miss Musician, Serena nodded again and again. With lingering longing in her eyes, she had wanted to perform in this city for a long time. Unlike her hometown, the world-renowned music, although it is a world-renowned music island, but it is far inferior to the fame of Gulen Tessolo. After all, this island is truly world-renowned. What? Vlad smiled. Want to perform here once? Miss Serena nodded sharply. No problem. Vlad patted his musician's head and said in a big way, that guy Tessero is very talkative. Hey. Serena smiled expectantly. Hey, Samurai. Vlad suddenly turned his head and said to the ruddy Mr. Samurai on the deck, do you miss this place? This place. Sakata didn't know what to say. Miss? Who will miss this place? What kind of person do you take Mr. Sakata for? Asshole, is Lao Su like the kind of person who can't control himself? Woo ha ha. Vlad smiled, I miss it so much. Samurai, let's go. Don't make our allies wait. Having said that, who misses this place so much? Dash 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 dash. Hey, look, something is flying over from the sky. In the bustling city, of course, it is not just such a person who is surprised, and it is certainly not a few who see things in the sky. It's a ship. A ship flew over from the sky. Immediately, such exclamations have spread around. It's actually a pirate ship flying above the sky. Of course, most people who eat melons are shocked. The pirate ship that can fly in the sky is too amazing no matter how you look at it. This is how it was done. A bunch of stupid guys who don't even know about this ship. Of course, not everyone is short-sighted, and it is understandable that someone will know the name of this ship. The name of this ship is Platinum D-Drake, the only flying pirate ship in the world. Don't you even know about such a famous pirate ship? Platinum D-Drake, D-Drake, could it be? Then, someone has already understood what this ship represents. Could it be that? Yes, as you think, this ship. There are no shortage of people in science. Commentary is a profession common to all worlds. It's the main ship of the Fire Dragon Pirates, one of the Shichibukai, the mount of the Fire Dragon Vlad. That is, the guy on that ship. Immediately someone widened their eyes and looked up in awe. Is that the Fire Dragon Pirates? Why did Shichibukai come here? Someone wondered, could it be that you are coveting the wealth of this going city? Don't be stupid, the Fire Dragon is a monster with amazing strength. Is Emperor Going a character who is easy to bully? Someone sneered, you don't know how powerful that monster is. The man fought a cold war with some lingering fears, and said, at the very least, it is difficult to defeat him on this ship. Go to the sky. Someone smiled and pointed to the Platinum D-Drake in the sky. It doesn't seem to be difficult. Quote. Oops, it's that Shichibukai, Fire Dragon. Stopping in her footsteps, the amazingly beautiful woman with short blonde curly hair looked a little surprised. How dare you just drive the boat in like this? No way. The red-haired woman who was leading the way in front of her turned her head and said weakly, after all, Lord Vlad is a good friend of Lord Tessero, which means our guest. That's it. There was a little surprise on the woman's charming face, and this beauty was even more breathtaking. Mr. Tessero's guests are some amazing guys. Of course. The red-haired woman, that is, this ship, the cadre of Gurren Tessolo, the right-hand man of Emperor Going, the person who carries the fruit, the terrible woman who can deprive people of luck, her name is Baccarat. Those who can be regarded as friends by Lord Tessero must be some incredible people. Baccarat smiled softly, just like you, Lord Stussy. I hate it. Named Stussy smiled and covered her face with her hands. She looked a little embarrassed. She could vaguely see a little blush on her face, and her whole body exuded an amazing beauty. Is indeed an impeccable woman. I'm not a great man. Please stop joking. Of course Baccarat wouldn't be in front of her. This woman named Stussy is not a simple thing. She looks like a girl in her 20s, but in fact, her real age is difficult to calculate, and she is definitely not young. Of course, it's not the point. The point is that this woman is the queen of the New World, or the queen of Happy Street, the world's largest gathering place for customs and industry. That is to say, this woman is the most powerful prostitute in the world. This is not a simple matter. Every guy who can make a name for himself in the New World is not someone to be underestimated, and Baccarat really understands this. Come with me please, Miss Stussy. Baccarat said, please come this way. Okay. Named Stussy finally looked up at the pirate ship in the sky and smiled. Ah. Have you waited a long time? Vlad stood up, on the head of the boat. How about Tessero? This is my platinum D-Drag. Chapter 398 Experiment. On the wide roof, the huge pirate ship slowly descended. With the structure of a normal ship, if it landed on such a flat place, it would probably capsize in an instant. However, it has already been said that the Platinum D-Drag is not a simple pirate ship. He is the best ship in the world. Vlad thinks so he has absolutely no defects. Kara. The position of the hull suddenly cracked, and 4 gaps appeared on both sides of the hull, 2 on each side, and 4 mechanical arms-like things extended from the inside, and fell steadily when they approached the ground, letting the hull remains balanced. Hey! Vlad jumped directly off the boat and landed lightly on the ground. Opposite him, his good friend, the city under his feet, the owner of this big boat had been waiting for a long time. Yo, Tesoro, haven't you seen it for a while? Vlad greeted with a smile on his face. It's been a while. Tesoro, in a pink suit, glanced at Vlad's Platinum D-Drag, then said, is this the big ship you're proud of? It doesn't look like that. Oh, I shouldn't have heard that. Vlad curled his lips and said seriously, my Platinum D-Drag is undoubtedly the most powerful pirate ship in the world. Oh, in addition to being able to fly. Tesoro smiled. What else is so great? Being able to fly is already one of the most amazing places, isn't it? Vlad sneered, at least it's better than your ship, which is nothing but big. Naive. Tesoro retorted, as we all know, Goran Tesolo is the most famous entertainment city in the world, and the benefits that this ship creates every day are beyond your imagination. Che, what's the use of money? Vlad looked dismissive. It's like someone is short of money. To reiterate, Mr. Vlad is not short of money. Maybe he was short of money in the early days of going to sea. He even went to Mariajoy to rob a wave, but now Vlad is not short of money at all. He took over Sky Island. Uncle Vlad of going in the Shangri-La ruins on the top can be said to be very rich, at least in the past few years. He has never been troubled by money matters. Oh, are you trying to be richer than me? Tesoro smiled and looked very disdainful. If it was compared to strength, he might think that he was inferior to Vlad, but if it was to be rich, then I would be sorry. Tesoro is the richest man in the world. He owns 20% of the world's Bailey. He can use his wealth to the extent that he can influence Tenryubido's decision. Make going anywhere. If you want to be richer than him, don't even think about it. Vlad has no reason to win at all. Cut. Vlad spat in disdain. It's amazing to be rich. Sorry. Tesoro smiled proudly. You can do whatever you want with money. Okay, just do whatever you want. Vlad spread his hands. What do I want? Tesoro threw something at Vlad. Hear it. Haha, it's really powerful, Tesoro. Vlad caught it. It was a fruit, with a spiral pattern. It was undoubtedly a devil fruit. It's amazing to be able to take out a devil fruit at will. Not a great fruit, Paramesha, the bright fruit, the ability to give the eater a strong light. Tesoro's insignificant and insignificant appearance fully shows what the restraint of a local tyrant is. It's the face of a local tyrant, but it doesn't matter. Vlad smiled. It doesn't matter what the fruit's ability is. I only need a fruit that can be used for experiments. Experiment. Tesoro frowned. Yes, experiment. Vlad pressed his hand gently, and the bright fruit had already started to spin on his fingers. It just so happens that the materials you want are still in the laboratory. Would you like to go and see this experiment with me? Okay. Tesoro readily accepted. I just happen to be interested in this experiment that's going to cost you so much. You won't be disappointed. Vlad smiled. Dash 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 dash. Okay guys, just go and play if you want to play. On the deck, Vlad said to his comrades, it's rare to come to such a place once. It would be a waste not to have fun. Yeah haha, just right. I also want to visit this city. Hey, the most powerful entertainment city in Blue Sea. Crack. Leaving such a sentence, Enel has turned into an electric light and disappeared into the sky. Alright, I'll go shopping too. Chef Vivi smiled, the food stock on board is running out. Then let me go too. The maid slowly blew out a smoke ring, I still miss this place. Captain. Serena looked at Vlad, her eyes seemed to be sparkling. Understood. Vlad smiled, turned his head to Tessero and said, Tessero, the musicians in my family want to borrow your theater to use it for the opening concert, is there any problem? I'll let Tanaka prepare it. Tessero naturally did not refuse. Get it done. Vlad gave Serena a thumbs up, and Serena returned a bright smile. Captain, I. The person who spoke was the white bear Babo, who was a little timid and did not have any sense of existence. Me too. Yes, bear. Vlad smiled, just follow Serena. By the way, call the doctor too. Yeah. Very excited. Yeah, well, The last Sakata samurai looked a little tangled. Understood. Vlad patted the man on the shoulder and showed a meaningful smile. I understand. Tessero. Understood. This time, before Vlad could speak, Tessero nodded knowingly, I'll ask Tanaka to take him there. Hey, do you hear me? Vlad smiled, enjoy it. Gudong. Sakata samurai couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva, very much looking forward to it. Don't say that Mr. Sakata looks very wretched, okay. It's just, mixing baths, such a temptation, is a man, no, can a human be rejected? This is a story that happened before, because I thought it was a bit embarrassing for this subordinate who would get nosebleed when he saw a pretty woman, so Vlad decided to take him for a good treatment. As for the treatment method, of course, fight poison with poison. Okay, then come with me. Vlad smiled, Tessero, let's see how this amazing experiment works. Hello, Mr. Passo, are you ready? I can't wait. Chapter 399 Ring. What kind of existence is devil fruit? We've been thinking about this issue. The speaker was the former king of the Kingdom of Germa, the current number 2 scientist of the Fire Dragon Pirates, and Mr. Judge who seemed unwilling. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Although he has a lot of resentment towards Vlad and is quite dissatisfied with the status quo that he is being threatened, this man's eyes seem to be shining. The laboratory is very quiet now. The man named Passo seems to be in a daze with the devil fruit that Tessero brought in his hand. In front of him is a strange-looking machine. Judge, according to Frauda's request, stands by him and Tessero's side to explain. This is a question that has plagued people at sea for years and has never been answered. Judge suddenly sighed, but, knowing that this guy Vegapunk has appeared, he is really an amazing guy. I am afraid he has actually cracked the secret of the devil fruit, right? He is the only one in the world who can do such a thing. I'm afraid no one has thought about feeding devil fruits to non-living creatures before, right? But not only did he think about it, he actually succeeded. Stop talking nonsense, Mr. Judge. Vlad scratched his ears, looking impatient. I'm not here to hear how good you are about Dr. Vegapunk. I want to see what I want. Cut. Judge looked disdainful. I thought you were just going to grab Germa's research materials. Tessero held a stack of documents in his hand. This was what he had entrusted Vlad to get. The reproduction technology of Germa Kingdom's soldier production. There were as many guys interested in this technology as possible. The results are not just data, but have all the scientists, including the king, been robbed by you? Woo ha ha. Vlad smiled, can't help it. Quote. Judge couldn't help but turn his face to one side. Who can tell him the feeling in his heart? Oh. Have you started yet? Vlad said so. It has indeed begun. Mr. Passo, holding the devil fruit in his hand, started his work, always feeling very impatient, and put the devil fruit into a weird-looking machine in front of him. Judge, who was in charge of the explanation, said in a timely manner, no one knows the origin and principle of the devil fruit, but one thing is clear to us, that is, at the moment of eating the devil fruit, the human body is indeed transformed. Now. Remodeling. Tessero frowned. That's right. Judge nodded, it's the deepest transformation, reaching down to the tiniest of genes. Maybe you can understand it better. The moment the devil fruit is eaten, the eater has become a normal human being. Subspecies with subtle genetic differences. It's not hard to understand. Vlad nodded. So there are two questions about how to make inanimate objects possess the power of devil fruits. Judge raised two fingers and said, first, how to ensure that the ability of the fruit can be taken out of the fruit, or in other words, to take out the things that can give people the ability. Second, how to let non-living objects eat things that do not have vital signs. These 2 points are the problems we need to solve. Then what? Vlad watched Paso start the machine and heard a very low, hum, sound. He asked casually. The first problem is really difficult to solve. Judge shook his head, looking a little lonely. We still don't know the working mechanism of devil fruits. We only know that devil fruits will respawn. After the eater dies, they will randomly respawn on a certain fruit, but this we don't understand the principle at all. Maybe there really is a devil in the devil fruit. So, Tessero said, have you overcome the second problem? That's right. Judge nodded with a look of excitement. Although I don't know how Vegapunk did it, we might be able to do something like this using this method. It is of course impossible to make a dead thing eat, but... Judge twitched his fingers and said, what if this dead thing is alive? Dead alive, life-giving. Vlad frowned. He remembered something bad. Soul fruit like Charlotte Linlin. No. Judge shook his head, denying, when I say the dead are alive, I don't really make the dead have life. Instead, activate. Activate. Vlad shook his head to show he didn't understand. This involves the study of lineage factors. Judge said casually, I don't think you understand the specific theory, but what you should know is that machine can realize the ability to temporarily make dead things active, which is similar to the setting of half-life and half-machines, but it is not synthesis, but transformation, so that dead things have certain biological signs in a short period of time. So, at this moment, the dead thing already has the prerequisites to eat the fruit, but the question is, how to make him eat it. Judge continued, so, the second function of this machine is to let the power of the fruit come out of the devil fruit. Although I don't know the specific principle, the devil fruit is only useful for the first sip. Even if the devil fruit is divided into countless pieces, only the one that is put into the mouth at the beginning will be useful. Therefore, we do given such an assumption, if you divide the devil fruit infinitely, cut it into small enough parts, and then put a random piece of it into a dead thing that already has life to some extent, is it equivalent to the living creature ate the devil fruit? Judge said frantically, so, the biggest function of this machine is to disperse devil fruits. Break up. Vlad frowned. Yes, break up. Judge nodded, really breaking up, breaking down to the molecular level. Then, if there is a living thing with an open interface in the same closed space as the fruit in the molecular state, then, you say, will they mix? Mixed? Tessero questioned. Yes, mix. Judge threw his fist hard, looking very excited. As long as you eat a little bit of the devil fruit, it will take effect, so is it understandable that you only need to eat a little bit, a little bit? It's enough. So, we need just a little mix is enough. Therefore, the recombination of genes and the reassembly of cells are realized. It's like the reconstruction of life. Wow. On the other side, the machine had been opened by Paso, and a small ring was taken out by Paso. Oh, did it work? Paso was a little dumbfounded. Chapter 400 Shiny. Did you make it? Vlad looked at the small silver-white ring in Paso's hand with some doubts. Did it succeed? Hello, Mr. Judge. The difference is to ask. Vlad has never been a man who would do anything to pretend to be coercive. He knew that he had a great lack of professional knowledge in this area, so he would naturally ask people who knew about it. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Did it work? I don't know. Judge shook his head, also staring intently at the ring on Passo's hand, and said solemnly, I don't know either. Don't know. Call. Vlad let out a slow sigh of relief and stepped forward to get to Passo's side. How? Mr. Passo, what's the result? Me. Passo came back to his senses, turned his head to look at Vlad, and said in surprise, Captain, are you there? Just found out. Vlad raised his forehead. I gave you the devil fruit, okay. You completely forgot about me in the end. Oh, forget it, forget it. Vlad waved his hand weakly, and it was meaningless to be honest with this man. This matter doesn't matter, what I care more about now is. Did the experiment succeed? Success. Passo looked hesitant. I don't know. What? Vlad frowned. Probably succeeded. Passo said, according to our calculations, the power molecules in the devil fruit should have been mixed with this ring, and logically, it should have been successful. Should. Vlad said softly, in such a context, as long as there are words such as should probably be possible, then it is generally unsuccessful. Perhaps it should be said that the ability may have been attached to this ring, which is a matter of high probability. Passo's expression remained unchanged, and he continued, the machine designed by Mr. Judge and I should be fine. However, Captain, even though this ring already has the ability, my doubts have not been resolved. What do you mean? Fred asked. It's very simple. Passo said, as we all know, the use of devil fruit power requires the ability's own physical strength as a price. But, of course, dead things like rings have no physical strength, then. Can the fruit ability actually take effect? Amount. Vlad has a big head for a while. This is really a good question. What is the ability of an object with no life to obtain a devil fruit? Vlad thought of the musician's pet on his ship, the big dog named Xiaobai, whose body was a robot unearthed on the moon. There was no doubt that it was lifeless, but after obtaining the fruit ability it doesn't even need to be charged, it seems that it has turned into a wolf. Vlad didn't find it strange before, because he knew that the waste officer at Annie's lobby also had a similar elephant knife in the hand, and the crocodile's subordinate also had a subordinate with a dog ball machine, so Vlad had a similar elephant knife in his hand. Vlad subconsciously thought that this was a normal thing, until now, when this guy Passo put forward this point of view, he was surprised that it was obviously not normal at all. How does a dead thing with no physical strength in itself drive the fruit ability? Not to mention, how does something without wisdom control the power of devil fruit? Then, how does the owner of the weapon control the weapon with the ability? Very puzzling question. Vlad was at a loss, or, in fact, such an ability addition can only be limited to Zone's devil fruit. Because of Zone's reasons to activate the dead, in fact, let the dead have life, so they can only move or even use the ability. So if you look at it this way, what exactly is Zone's devil fruit? Can the dead have life and even simple thinking? It is no longer a simple lineage factor that can explain it. The more I think about it, the more panic I get. The devil fruit is really a big pit. At least Vlad has no idea about such a big pit. He doesn't care about the process, as long as the result is fine. So, Passo, did the experiment work? Vlad said so. Who cares what kind of secrets there are in devil fruits? Mr. Vlad only cares about whether his plans will be suddenly disrupted, and everything else will be fine, although he is quite fond of the secrets of devil fruits. Interested, but if you really want to explore such secrets, then forget it. If you don't have the time, you should leave such things to scientists. If this ring has power. Passo's face was full of doubts, and his hand squeezed the ring in his hand slightly. Then it was a success. Wow! In the blink of an eye, a bright light filled the room. Passo's hand was like holding a small sun. Vlad, who was close at hand, closed his eyes. Such a strong light stabbed him. My eyes hurt a little. All right, put it away. Mr. Passo. Vlad turned his head. Even if he closed his eyes, he could clearly feel the strong light from the outside world on his eyelids, which was not a pleasant feeling. Chewed tilde. The light suddenly dimmed, and the people in this laboratory suddenly felt better. The sudden strong light can cause serious consequences to people's eyes. So, Vlad licked his lips, looked at the ring in Passo's hand, and said, "Is this a success?" "Well." Passo nodded, "It did succeed, but, how can I put it, it's a wonderful thing." "Wonderful." Vlad was a little surprised. "Captain, come and try it." Passo handed the ring to Vlad. "You don't need me to say more, you'll see for yourself." "That's it." Vlad took the ring that Passo handed over, and a strange look suddenly appeared on his face. Oh, this is." Vlad suddenly squeezed the ring in his hand. Scoff. The sudden bright light shrouded the laboratory once again. Vlad let go of his hand, and the strong light disappeared instantly. "That's true." Vlad smiled, "Simple and quick way to operate. I don't understand what the principle is, but there is no doubt that, unlike the dead thing with Zone's ability attached, this ring does not have the ability to activate its own ability. In other words, it is human physical strength. Vlad can clearly feel that when he exerts force on this ring, his physical strength is slowly passing away, which is very interesting." Woo-ha-ha. Vlad laughed. "Anyway, it looks like the experiment was a success." "Then, hurry up." Vlad was very excited. "I can't wait."